Now, the market is finally beginning to stabilize. This we have seen from the last half of last week, and the rise we have seen today seems to give a positive indicator to investors. And joining us now in studio to take us through the latest news from the Nairobi Stock Exchange is Eric Masau, an independent investment analyst. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's begin by looking at Kenya Airways. And as we have just seen in the park there, it's been a challenging 2 years for the company. We're beginning to see a turnaround in profitability. How's the share price responding to that news? We saw it dip about 4% just after the announcement. What's your immediate analysis?
I think the earnings came in well within expectations. Obviously, some investors are a bit concerned because if you just value at that price, it was trading at quite generous PE levels. And so we saw a bit of profit taking there. And the dividend also wasn't very aggressive given the expansion plans that the airlines has. So I mean, it's a good story, and you know, despite the challenges, it's well positioned. But I think the price had sort of overshot its position.
Now, going forward, analysts remain optimistic that with its Africa-centered expansion, the company is set for higher heights, while other analysts still say stay clear from airline stocks that exposed to several risks. What's your outlook going forward for the Kenya Airways share?
I think it's positive on the Africa space. Kenya Airways is actually has a very good position, and the strategy it's adopted are quite important, and they're really helping it achieve certain targets. Obviously, it has its own challenges. We had some industrial action at some point, the possibility of higher wages. And obviously the volatility in oil prices obviously affects airlines, and Kenya Airways is no exception.
Still staying with results, Centum Investments announces its full year results tomorrow. What are your expectations?
I think they're going to release a very good set of results. If you look at some of the investments they made throughout the year, we had Capacity Investment, the gas manufacturer, and that has rewarded the company quite handsomely. They probably haven't liquidated that position, but you know, in their books, that's quite positive. They also sold their troublesome RVR stake to Citadel Investment. So on overall, I think we should expect a good year, and the stock market was quite buoyant during the year, so we should expect a good set of results.
So would you then say that this is a good time to buy Centum? The market and the economy are perceived to be on an upward swing. This is an investment firm, and that should be reflected on the company going forward. Are you bullish about Centum?
Yeah, I think it's well positioned. I mean, the real estate business that's really upcoming. They're looking at developing new sets of business, maybe asset management. So obviously, if you look at all those, it makes sense. Obviously, it's important as you get into the stock to really choose your entry price right. But as a company, fundamentally, I think the management has done a very good job.
Let's turn our attention to the latest company that seems to be seeking more attention from the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and that's Kenyan. Are they getting any luck in having more activity on its counter now that it is more liquid after the share split?
Yeah, I think increasingly we are seeing that. We are seeing more blocks trading on the counter. The thing is that counter is very tightly held, and even with the diversity, most of the holders hold huge chunks. And so from that perspective, just the number of holders, it makes it a little bit difficult, you know, to really trade huge blocks without sacrificing some discount. But obviously, if you look at the performance of the company, it's now split its shares twice. I think investors might now want to see something like a bonus. But obviously, they're doing a good job. I think fundamentally they're doing well. They've had some challenges, of course. They've had quite a bit of litigation, and that doesn't augur very well with the share price. But on overall, I think it's positive.
Now, to the biggest news of the week, that's apart from Joe Biden's visit, of course, Budget Day. East African states are due to release their budgets on the 10th of June. Now, let's look at Kenya. The government spending is growing at about 20% annually. Economic growth is not reflective of that. And Kenyans are now saying no more expansionary budgets. What are your expectations ahead of Budget Day on Thursday?
It does appear that the Minister of Finance will probably be looking at expanding to really sustain the fiscal stimulus that was commenced last year. Last year, he did not introduce new taxation measures. So obviously, this time you wonder if they're going to, increase the spending. Where are they going to get the funds? And there's talk about capital gains tax being reintroduced. I'm not sure whether that will be very popular. Obviously, we have the new constitution which proposes the taxation of land, and if say that comes through, I think taxation of land could provide a good revenue source. But at this point, it's really difficult to see the Minister of Finance really increasing in terms of taxation. But it appears very likely that they'll actually go ahead and increase spending. Obviously, they'll also borrow a little bit. They'll also borrow more from multilateral donors and all that. I think that will also come in quite substantially.
And of course, we're waiting to see where the finance minister will finally say a word on the sovereign bond that was to be launched last year.
Yes, certainly.
Thanks, Eric.